Welcome once again to Story Hour. I'm your host, Daniel Marcus. My fabulous co-host is Laura Blackwell. And I hope that you are all healthy and safe, taking care of yourselves, taking care of each other. And, I started Story Hour well over 2 years ago, over 2.5 years ago, the early stages of the pandemic. My thinking was I just wanted to create a space for my writer friends and me to get together and share our work. And my intention was a pretty small, intimate community, and it's still kind of small and intimate in a way, but it's grown way, way, way beyond my initial expectations. We've been meeting every Wednesday for 2.5 years. We've had I don't know, Laura, 150 authors through here, maybe something like that. And it's just been phenomenal. And week after week, we've been hearing amazing work from every corner of the genre, some incredibly talented artists. So I feel real privileged that we get to keep on doing this and get to keep on hearing great work. So the way this works is pretty simple. I like to think of the ancient and time-honored form of entertainment, which is folks sitting around the fire telling each other lies. And because what else is fiction beside that? So every week, we've got 2 authors and about 30 minutes each doing exactly that. Tonight we are extremely happy to have Marisca Pichette and Isabel J. Kim. So welcome to you both. It's our custom to ask authors to indicate a worthy cause for us to call your attention to. If you're fortunate enough to be able to help out financially to do that, otherwise spread by word of mouth, just spread the word. Marisca is reading tonight for Planned Parenthood. In fact, both of our authors are reading tonight for Planned Parenthood, which is kind of awesome. We need them now more than ever, I think. They provide a multitude of healthcare and educational services for men and women, including abortion services, abortion referral, contraception, HIV services, STD testing and treatment, pregnancy testing, education, on and on and on. It's truly an essential organization. And if you're frustrated, outraged, frightened by the recent Roe ruling, and we all should be. And if you're wondering what you can do concretely to fight back, one thing you can do, if you can, is send money to Planned Parenthood. Even if you don't have much, every little bit helps. Skip a couple of lattes this month and send $10. Do whatever you can. If you can't send money, call them up and see if there's volunteer opportunities. If you can't do that, then spread the word. So. We're going to start the program tonight with Marisca. Marisca Pichette is a queer author of short fiction and poetry. Her work has appeared in Strange Horizons, Fireside Magazine, Alternative Stories Podcast, the No Sleep Podcast, Pseudopod, and Podcasts, among others. Her debut speculative poetry collection, Rivers in Your Skin, Sirens in Your Hair, is coming in spring 2023 from Android Press. Marisca, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. I am reading from Western Massachusetts on the ancestral homelands of the Pecumtuck and Abnaki peoples. And tonight I will be reading my story Void's Mouth, which appeared in Fusion Fragment number 11, which came out this spring. So I will jump right into it. Content warning for body horror, but involving constellations. So there's not like blood or anything, but it's still like body horror. Void's Mouth. Nothing lures a constellation better than quicksilver. A single vial is enough to summon one of the largest in the expanse, or 2 to 3 smaller ones, such as Aries, Libra, and Lynx. But quicksilver alone isn't enough to bind the stars. Ice captures attention like nothing else. Nutmeg creates a space for the constellation to settle. And in order to ensure the ties between stars don't fade when they've left the sky, embroidery thread must be used. preferably gold. And don't forget, a cage of willow wood with an adamant lock. Getting the quicksilver and thread is easy enough. Vials of quicksilver are sold on Titan, and there's a woman who weaves under a cliff on Io. Nutmeg covers the south pole of Saturn. Finding something to carry it is harder to come by. I suggest a hot air balloon. That's what I used. The purest ice rests within Naiad's heart, and Willowwood, there's only one place to get that. The adamant lock was a gift from my grandmother. It was the first piece I acquired, and the last to find its place when I settled down to summon the stars. I chose Nereid to lay down my blanket of nutmeg, emptied from the belly of a balloon that's seen more of the expanse than I ever will. I spread it out with my hands, filling the crevices between rocks. I put the ice out next, laying the shards down end to end. Nereid has its own ice. I can feel its chill washing over my hands. The ice from Naiad, though, will draw better. In the center of the diamond of ice, I pour the quicksilver, spiraling outward. When the vial is empty, the edges of quicksilver just touch the edges of ice. They reflect each other. I tie my embroidery thread to one ice shard and unspool it as far as it reaches. At the line where the nutmeg runs out, I've placed the willowwood cage. I tie the end of the embroidery thread to my grandmother's lock. Adamant reflects gold. Gold reflects adamant. I let go of both and step back, placing myself on the line between the space I have created and the moon I am visiting. How do you summon a constellation? First, assemble everything you need. Second, arrange it as I've done. Third, look up. I can't see Eridanus from where I stand, but I know he's there, stretching across the expanse, rippling from Orion to Fornax. And just because I can't see him doesn't mean he can't see me. Constellations are filled with fire. Whatever they set their sights on cannot be hidden. On the border between nutmeg and moon, I draw a line in the dust. I remember his shape well, following his body to the end, connecting the 8 extra stars that never used to be there. I press my finger deep into the dirt, ensuring that no breeze will take this detail away. When I've drawn him as he looks, but not as he is, I take a final pinch of nutmeg and fill it in. Eridanus. I stand and face my diamond of quicksilver and ice. Nereid calls. Cool tickles my fingers, tugging in towards the center of the space I've made. I make no move, not even breathing as I wait for him to come to me. I wonder if he knows my voice. I wonder if he can still recognize my face. Years have passed since the Expanse dismantled a constellation, repositioning and reassigning its stars to other, more profitable positions. I was not the only one. Eridanus was not alone in benefiting from the choices made by the largest constellations, interests all their own. The story they told the rest of the Expanse was one of safety, their protection of the littlest star clusters through select thinning, bringing order. The rearranging didn't alter the light and dark. Nothing was added, nothing removed, just roles shuffled, images changed. Certain names excised from the record of the cosmos. Some stories fade to make room for brighter tales. Sometimes blackness is more appealing than a half-wrought image in the sky. After all this time, I think I've come to agree. If the images are flawed, they must be removed. Minutes pass. I wait, silent and unbreathing. No part of my body moves. Not a single grain of nutmeg is disturbed. Will he come? I collected everything necessary. My summoning was clear. He should not know who waits on the other side of the diamond tethered by thread. I am close to calling again when the temperature rises around my ankles. My pool of quicksilver stirs, waves lapping at the shore of ice. I remain still, watching as the waves grow higher, splashing over the ice and running across the nutmeg until all the quicksilver has been driven out of the diamond. In the space where it was, stars gather. There are 40 in all. They are blinding to look at. Lucky my eyes are not eyes, but the idea of eyes. Ideas are all they left me with, and ideas are the most dangerous tools of all. I count the stars carefully as they arrive, ensuring that none are missing. 32 shine bright, old, and integrated. 8 are dimmer. 8 are alien. Yet these are the most familiar to my idea of eyes. Who has spoken my name? Eridanus's voice is not a voice, but the idea of a voice. It brushes my idea of ears and trickles between strands of my idea of hair. I let myself smile then. On solid rock, constellations are no better than the rest of us, clusters of ideas strung together with gravity and dust. And if these ideas should get ideas of their own, too large for their lightless bodies? I'm tempted to tell Eridanus now, but I don't want to give him a chance to act. I reach for the embroidery thread. Thank you for coming to Nereid. I pluck the thread. Vibrations race from the adamant lock to the central diamond. Ice and quicksilver carry the motion on. Before Eridanus can align himself, his stars shake apart. I pluck the thread again. One by one, the stars drop into the sliver of gold. They ride the waves of thread back across to me, a field of nutmeg keeping them from escaping before they are brought into the willowwood cage. 40 times I pluck the thread. At last, the final star crosses the nutmeg and I cut the thread away before any can attempt a return journey. It frays, drifting into sparkling dust that has served its purpose. I smile at this image. Eridanus is whirling, trying to align in his proper shape. The cage prevents this, and he is forced to appear like me, in a body that is composed of ideas, not light. Facing him, I take the adamant lock in my hand. It is hot. Stranded on rocks that hang in the expanse, moons, planets, asteroids, many believe the constellations are untouchable. They rule with fire and light, measured not by miles, but time. They wield the power to make and unmake, gift a name and a shape, or remove it forever. Are they invincible? That fire can be snuffed, that light snatched away. The constellations themselves have proved this. They believe they are the only ones with this power. Years of study and stealing across the stars, and now I have it, too. A spell to reverse creation. 40 stars flow together, connecting into the only shape my willowwood cage allows. Eridanus is sinuous, his eyes twin blue dwarfs, his hands masses of galactic dust. He ripples on either end, hair the color of ice, legs dissolving into liquid hydrogen. I focus on these ends. One of them belongs to me. What is... Eridanus spins in the willowwood cage, his eyes aflame. What have you done to me? I let go of the adamant lock and smile between the bars, bearing my idea of teeth. After all these years, I want this moment to last. I'll let you guess. Blue stars find me. Eridanus stares, confusion still clouding his wavering features. Who are you? I circle the cage, nutmeg clinging to the soles of my idea of feet. He is a thing of beauty, exquisitely vulnerable here, tethered to the solidity of Nereid. Where did you put them? At your top or bottom? He pivots to face me, shimmering like I used to. Confusion melts into terror, and I know he has recognized me at last. Palafalax. I let my teeth show fully, dull approximations of the fire that used to fill me. I am ravenous, but I hold back. Savor this moment. Centuries, and you remember me despite my situation. Truly, Eridanus, it's been too long. No, Eridanus ripples away from me, but there's nowhere to go. His shining back flinches against willowwood bars. You cannot come back. You were removed from the expanse. Coming back would be poetic? I drag my fingers along the bars. Eridanus shrinks away, moving to the other side of the cage. His weakness is no longer elegant. He is a broken thing. His stars no supplement to his lack of poise. That had been the ultimate insult. They gave my stars to him. He who is so pathetic, so conquerable. Eridanus is shaking his head, his hair flowing down his back in knots of flame. I wonder if my stars are there, hidden between the dusty strands. Saliva fills my idea of mouth. Holding me will only make things worse, he says. I laugh, wrapping my lightless hand around the bar nearest his face. Oh, worse? How could they be worse? I slide my other arm between the bars and snatch his hand, my fingers closing around the star that quivers underneath. Heat pulses against my palm. I can wait no longer. You took everything from me, reduced me to ash. Do you know what a constellation is without stars? A black hole. Horror dims Eridanus's light, my light. Palafalax, please. I drag my hand back through the bars. He screams. Outside of the cage, I open my fingers and stare at the fire in my palm. It's not one of mine, or at least it wasn't. I meet Eridanus's eyes while I drop the star onto my tongue and swallow it. My stomach flares. Exquisite. The star falls down inside the dark of me and becomes the first fire. I lean against the cage. You owe me 7 more. I take his hands, then his feet. I rip his knees away, and I don't stop when I've reclaimed my stars. I swallow 8 and then 10 and then 30, picking him apart until only a vague haze remains. My mouth burns and the hole inside me widens, ready for more, more, more. I pull the last faint shimmers of Eridanus from the cage and press them to my lips, but I don't swallow them. I don't need the willowwood anymore. I free the adamant lock from its place and fasten it to the vial that held the quicksilver. Into this I pour what remains of Eridanus, a single faded star, unable to connect to any others. He is like me now, what I was for so long. Only I am merciful. They left me with no stars. Stepping back from the cage, I stopper the vial, staring at Eridanus as I have made him. I decide he can stay, my ornament to light the night. And now, my body roils with flame and dark. I fasten Eridanus to my chest over the strobing light of my heart. Nutmeg rises in a cloud around me as I turn to face the sky. The expanse shines. So many lights. I kick off from the ground and open my mouth wide. Constellations are filled with fire. Whatever they set their sights on cannot be hidden. I know. I used to be one of them until the expanse stole my stars away. I leave Nereid behind. I don't need nutmeg or quicksilver to chase down Libra, Lynx, and Aries. Every star that passes between my lips makes me stronger, hungrier. From the smaller constellations, I chase down the larger, swimming through fire and dust. Darkness spreads in my wake. It is too late for any of them to stop me now. I inhale galaxies. When I look down, my grandmother's lock is there, shining in the light of a lesser star. Eridanus is the only witness to my revenge. I will not be forgotten again. Thank you.
Wow, it was lovely. Just the scope was amazing. What we like to do typically between authors is just pause for a moment and let the work kind of resonate, ring a little bit before we move on to the next piece. So I'm just not going to say anything for a little brief moment in time. Really lovely work, Marisca. Thank you. So our next author, Isabel J. Kim. Isabel is a Korean-American science fiction and fantasy writer based in New York City. When she's not writing, she's practicing law. And when she's not doing that, she's co-hosting Wow If True, a podcast about internet culture. It's a great title. Her work has been published in Clark's World, Lightspeed, and Strange Horizons, great markets, among others. Find her at www.isabel.kim or at Isabel J. Kim on Twitter. So Isabel, take it away.
Hi, thanks for having me. Okay, so I'm going to read you You'll Understand When You're a Mom Someday, which is a title taken from something that my mother loves to tell me. And it was originally published in Koryo last fall. And you should actually go listen to it there because the recording there is way better than the one that I'm going to do for you. And content warnings: death, dying, pregnancy, childbirth, violence, blood, general Lovecraftian shit. And I promise it's not as dark as it sounds, but it is kind of a horror story. So Annalise dies in the bathtub, the baby screaming, her husband panicking, the doula calling 911 on a cell phone smeared with red. Lacy clouds of blood surround her. Her eyes are glassy, tear tracks leaking down her cheeks. By the time the ambulance arrives, Annalise is breathing again. There is blood in a vast circle around the tub, a sluggishly bleeding line down her stomach. If you were to squint, the blood splatters would look like letters, numbers, signs, and symbols. If you were to study the gash on Annalise's stomach, you would see blood and gossamer thread cut ragged at the end. If you were to place your hand in her husband's pocket, you would feel the outline of cold scissors slick with warm blood. The EMTs don't do any of these things. The doula won't speak. The husband explains that they panicked. Yes, our firstborn, we should have gone to the hospital. I know. The EMTs are understanding. The baby is crying. They load baby and mother onto the stretcher. Annalise is dead. Something else moves her skin. Annalise and her husband move into a duplex near the university. It's a whole circus of the moving truck and all the boxes, and Annalise has no idea where any of their things are. Her husband's scissors are nowhere to be found. He's euphoric about the move. More space for the baby, more light in the bedroom, and a clean break from the trauma of their old house. It's closer to the university, and her husband has a tenure track appointment. It doesn't matter what an Annalise was before the birth. Now she holds a newborn against her soft breast and smiles at their new neighbor. The neighbor's name is Jean. She teaches at the university as well in the anthropology department. She asks about the baby, and Annalise smiles vacantly. The baby is quiet, mostly. The baby burbles. She's very cute, Jean says, but to Annalise's ears, it sounds hollow. Annalise knows how to tell truth from lies. Annalise holds Jean's gaze for too long. She's not used to watching through binary eyes. Jean's smile almost falters. Is she? Annalise says, and Jean laughs, and Annalise laughs, and the husband comes out to the front porch, and he laughs too. He kisses Annalise on the cheek before he leaves. He never kisses Annalise on the mouth anymore. A relationship is a contract between two parties who pretend not to have a contract. The terms of Annalise and her husband's union are as follows. Annalise and her husband are joined together in holy matrimony and the bonds of blood, and also the traumatic event of their first child's birth, of which they will never speak again. What mankind has wrought, no God will tear asunder. Annalise loves her husband, and he loves her back, with a desperation almost akin to worship. Annalise is Annalise, as her husband has never wanted anyone other than his wife. Her husband will provide her with all material wants for the pleasure of Annalise's companionship and discretion. Separation is not an option. 2 months and the house is unpacked. Annalise explores with unfamiliar hands with foreign fingers. She feeds the baby from a bottle and endures the disapproving stares of older women at the coffee shop down the street. Annalise doesn't know why they disapprove. It's not like the baby is crying. The baby doesn't cry much anymore. Annalise thought that it might be talking by now, or at least able to move around. It only took Annalise 20 hours to figure that out, after all. But the baby is a sleepy, squishy lump curled up against Annalise's chest. She strokes its fine, downy hair and wonders at the texture. When it grows dark, she swallows the baby and puts it to bed. She stares at it while it sleeps. She always changes the baby's diapers without any wrinkle of her nose. Does he ever take care of her? Jean asks, disapproving. Jean is divorced and owns a cat that fluffs up and hisses whenever Annalise comes into view. Jean has taken to inviting Annalise on coffee runs, which inevitably end in sitting at the coffee shop table closest to the window. Annalise likes watching people walk by. Oh, he's busy, Annalise says. She doesn't know what her husband spends his day doing. He leaves the house early. He comes back late. He won't tell her where he put her things. That's no excuse, Jean says, taking a long drink of her coffee. It's the 21st century. He's busy, Annalise says again. Her husband always comes home late and kisses her on the cheek, hello, darling, and then goes upstairs to hold the baby. He kisses the baby on the forehead, cradles its head, places it back in its bassinet. Then he strips off his jacket, his shirt, and slacks. Underneath, he's all bare, knobbly knees, hair on his legs and stomach and arms, collapsing in bed. He asks her to, please come to bed. So Annalise strips off her skirt and shirt. She curls up with him, his warm hands pressed against the healing wound on her stomach, his face pressed against the nape of her neck. Oh, gods, Annalise, he says. He presses close against her and whispers his fears into her skin. Sometimes he cries and sobs her name. It's going to be fine, he says. We're all going to be fine. Annalise looks down at her cup. I don't mind, she says. I bet he makes you do all the housework too, Jean says. He never makes me cook, Annalise says. He doesn't trust me with the stove. Annalise sometimes brings her husband lunch at his office on campus. She always brings him the same thing. A sandwich piled high with thinly sliced roast beef and cheese and yellow mustard, a Coke, a pack of chips, things that don't need to be cooked. He meets her at the doorway to his little room and she hands him the brown paper bag. Can I come in? She always asks, tilting her head so she can see around his shoulder. Usually there's a graduate student or two inside, talking with him about old myths, dead languages, all the things that Annalise could provide information on if she were so inclined. If that was what her husband had contracted for. Behind her, shoals of chattering undergrads walk past. Annalise watches them out of the corner of her eye. Their synchronic movements, the way the individuals move in seamless tandem, remind her of home. No, but thank you, darling, he says, and leans forward to kiss her on the cheek. It gives Annalise a good view of his office. It's crammed full of old books and dusty papers, thick tomes bound in leather and leatherish things. There's a large poster reprinting a depiction of an Aztec altar, another large poster with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, another with, oh God, Jormungandr, I fucked that one up, encircling the world in its coils. That one always makes Annalise smile. Legends and religion, comparative mythologies. Her husband has a doctorate in archaeology, but his true love has always been the arcane. He's written 3 books. He has a popular podcast. He's brilliant. Annalise adored him. The scissors are on his desk. She can see the gleam of their handles. It would be so easy to unstitch the contract from her skin with them if only the conditions weren't so expansive. But Annalise cannot pursue separation, and therefore cannot enter her husband's domain and pick up his instrument. She wrenches her gaze away to stare into her husband's dark eyes. "Let me in," she says. "Give me the scissors. I'll tell you things beyond your wildest dreams." "No," her husband says, and Annalise can smell his sweat. "No, I don't want that." "What do you want?" she asks. She can taste a new contract on her tongue, the way it will settle on her, less strangling than their current agreement. "Annalise," he sighs, and the conversation is over. Annalise spends her days exploring. The shower that takes a few minutes to warm up, the bedroom that gets too warm in the afternoons, the kitchen with the gas stove that she uses to make a single egg for breakfast. She remembers hunger, but after her birth, she finds herself too cramped for food. She spends long afternoons folding laundry on the couch, watching television, the baby sleeping next to her. She watches shows where everyone is always smiling, the white flashes of bone, the thread displays of delight. Annalise ventures outside when she's tired of watching. The coffee shop down the street where she shows the baby the pastries, the mismatched cups, the flower boxes. The baby looks at things and coos. Sometimes Jean is with her. Jean knocks on her door and says things like, "There's a farmer's market 3 blocks over on Saturdays, and I'm going if you want to come." Jean always asks in a brusque tone, her questions quick and embarrassed. She asks like it's a statement, but Annalise can parse the query behind her lips. Jean is lonely. Annalise understands loneliness. Annalise is lonely too. "I'd love to," Annalise says and smiles, just like they do on TV. Annalise's outings are punctuated by long stretches of molasses taffy time, the clock ticking and Annalise ticking along with it. If Annalise had friends, had family other than the husband and the baby before the move, they're all gone now. Annalise is estranged. The baby doesn't count. The baby came from her body. Sometimes Annalise stands in the front of their bathroom mirror and stretches the pale skin of her stomach. There's a dark red gash down the center of it, puckered with stitches. It's healing well, but it still seems angry. 2 seconds from weeping blood. Her skin seems very fragile. She can see the light blue capillaries that cross underneath her epidermis, above the dermis, and dark strands of muscle, the glistening eggshell membrane of her peritoneum, flecked with gold fat and the shadows of veins. Creeping spider vessels across the wet expanse of it, above the guts and all the rest of her. Such a thin layer to keep everything in. Late Saturday morning, and her husband hasn't left the house yet. Unusual behavior for him, but Annalise just begins fixing her usual egg. "You're using the stove," her husband says, looking up from his laptop. Annalise glances at him as she breaks the egg into a pan. It sizzles in the oil, proteins coagulating. "Yes," Annalise says, "it's not hard." She had never used a gas stove before moving here. "I thought you didn't know how," her husband says, and she can hear the salt-sour scent threading through his voice, the jagged fear. He's usually able to keep it to a low whisper. She likes the taste of it. Sometimes at night, she tells him horrible things just to smell it. "I can't love you," she'll say. "I don't know what love is, but whatever I feel for you, it can never be love." Sometimes he cries, and Annalise kisses away his tears. "You deny your wife the kitchen," Annalise says. "How untraditional. Isn't it usually the other way around?" "Annalise," he says, the shape of all the syllables fully familiar. He's known Annalise for so long. They went to school together, a meet cute in philosophy class when they sat next to each other and he complimented her laptop stickers, followed by a college romance, followed by a wedding and graduate school and archaeology digs and fellowships, all finally culminating in a decision one lovely, lazy, sunny afternoon. Annalise wrapping her arms around her husband from behind and whispering in his ear, "Let's make a baby." She remembers their long conversations together late at night before the baby, recorded in the chemical etching of Annalise's hippocampus. "Do you want me to make you an egg too?" Annalise asks, teasing. "Come now, you know I can't hurt you." "Can't or won't?" he asks. "It's a stove," she says. "I'm in the room too, and the baby. Do you think I would? I don't know, he says, all honesty, rare from her husband. He shakes his head. I didn't come to argue. I wanted to ask how you were, how you've been adjusting. It's been months, Annalise says. I'm adjusting, faster if you help with the baby more. Why are you asking me this now? You're always carrying her, her husband protests. I just want to know if you're happy here. I've been thinking, and it's a terribly big adjustment, isn't it? Annalise spoons hot oil over the yolk of her egg to set the whites. Unimaginable. She means that literally. Her husband wouldn't be able to comprehend. She wouldn't be able to explain. The room is quiet for a long moment. Annalise turns off the gas and pours the egg onto a plate. She takes out a fork and sits at the table. Hey, Annalise's husband says, standing from the table, leaning forward to give her a kiss on the head. I miss you. What are you talking about? Annalise says, breaking the yolk with her fork. Yellow floods her plate. I'm right here. Annalise is fascinated by exits. The baby exited from her body. Annalise exits through doors that open and close. The dark gash on her stomach is held together by scab and string. Her husband, always leaving. She tells Jean as much. He's an asshole, Jean says. You have to see that, right? You know that you don't need to put up with this. Annalise can see the shape of Jean's thoughts. Jean thinks laterally to Annalise. None of the fascination with exits, the binary of coming and going. Jean thinks of people and the way they change, of bones found in ancient caves and proof of intermixed DNA, Neanderthal, Denisovan, Homo sapiens, chipped pottery shards, all the things we carried, glass beads and scraps of polished flint, 100 mothers and 1,000,000 children, and hands holding hands and hands hurting flesh, and none of us ever being free of one another in the end. The last part is an understanding she and Annalise share. It's what creates the kinship between them. He's my husband, Annalise says. Wouldn't you miss me if I left? Of course I'd miss you, but you always say that, Jean says. That he's your husband. But I never hear you talk about whether you care about him. It sounds like you're just staying for the baby, and he doesn't even help. It's like he doesn't want to be around you or something. Does postpartum depression affect fathers? I don't know, Annalise says, stroking the baby's fine hair. And don't say that, he loves me. That's the whole truth of it. Her husband loves Annalise, and Annalise loved him dearly back. If history has taught us anything, Jean says in her lecturing voice, it's that love isn't always enough. Say I wanted to leave, Annalise says, leaning forward. The baby girls in protest at being squished. I've got family back home. I haven't seen them since I moved. Would you help me? Of course, Jean says. Annalise smiles at her, a contract that is not a contract, superseding old agreements. Time has not made Annalise comfortable. Her confusion has turned to a manageable discomfort, like a simmering pot that never boils over. She wakes in the morning with an alarm and murmurs 5 more minutes until she hears the baby crying. Every day she looks at her body in the mirror. Her honey blonde hair, her sloped shoulders and soft stomach with its healing line. Soon it'll be nothing but a faint pucker, the stitches dissolved, the contract subsumed into her flesh, until it becomes part of the truth of her, until the body is her and she is the body, her curiosity having led to her cage. In months, there won't even be a scar, and the whole mess of her birth will be forgotten. Time's running out. The body forgets. Nothing remembers. She goes to the baby's crib. The baby graduated out of bassinet months ago, and picks it up. It coos at her, happy to see its mother. She coos back. Are you happy to see Mama? She asks. Do you love Mama? The baby giggles. Love is not one of the things she understood before, but now she understands. Love is a delightfully strange facet of desire, and she has always understood want. That's all there was back where she came from. Desire and the subsequent taking of the desired. It's what called her to her husband, her curiosity and inspection of his wholehearted want. Annalise wants as well. Annalise knocks on Jean's door with the baby securely on her hip. Jean swings it open, and she can hear the cat yowling in the background. Hi, Annalise says. Can I ask you for a weird favor? Sure, Jean says, because there is a trust built between them over months, over small contracts filled, coffees bought for each other, errands run together, conversations, promises. Great, Annalise says. You know where my husband's office is, right? Sure. Can you run an errand for me? I need the scissors he keeps on his desk and the cup full of pencils, but I can't leave the baby and it's time for her nap. Of course, Jean says. That's not that weird. Let me give you his spare keys. Annalise knows where her husband leaves them. She's explored every inch of their house, and it was never the physical lock that barred her from his office. She fishes the keys out of her pocket and hands them to Jean. Thank you. Sure, Jean says, and waves at Annalise and the baby as she leaves. The baby waves back. Annalise takes the baby back into her house, leaving the front door unlocked for Jean to enter. She puts the baby on her mat on the floor. Can you say mama? Annalise asks the baby, sitting down next to her. The baby babbles. Annalise turns on the television. Laughter, smiles, stage sets. The baby's babbling grows quieter. And then Jean runs back up to the house, holding the silver scissors like they're a poisonous snake, her face wrinkled with confusion. Jesus Christ, Anna, are they covered in blood? Oh, you got them, Annalise says, springing to her feet and rushing over to Jean. Give them to me. Jean jerks back. Why do you want these? These are a biohazard. The blood on the scissor blades is as fresh as it was months ago. Annalise sighs. I asked you whether you would help me leave, and you said you would. I did, Jean confirms, and Annalise can't stop herself from smiling. New agreements superseding old agreements. I will help you leave. Overturning separation is not an option. Jean, her savior, nearly close enough to touch. Jean, the sheath holding her salvation. What mankind hath wrought, man can still tear asunder. Never sign a contract without knowing its loopholes. I need these scissors to leave, Annalise says. Please give me the scissors, Jean. I need them to go home. Jean hesitates again. The bond between them is enough for Annalise to read her thoughts. Suspicion, caution, confusion, fear of violence. A blade is a blade, even if the blade is dull. Jean, Annalise tries again, I'll explain everything after I have them. The quid pro quo of a contract again. She doesn't like it, but it's beginning to seem like the only way. This one is lightweight, only the promise of information. Why do you need them? Jean asks. Annalise's turn to hesitate. You know, families, heirlooms. It's not a lie, it's the heirloom that involves her family. Jean snorts and holds them out to her. Annalise reaches forward and grabs Jean's warm human hand with her cold fingers and pulls. Annalise, holding Jean, plunges the scissors into Annalise's stomach, ripping the shadow of her stitches, fresh blood on top of fresh blood. Jean screams. The thing that was Annalise hemorrhages from the reopened wound in Annalise's stomach, gushing out of the skin suit, non-Euclidean black water, the glistening twists and turns of her. She opens her myriad luminescent eyes and stretches her numerous dangling limbs through the holes in space-time, darting one out to wrap around the shrieking Jean. Pulsate transfers. Annalise dead, Annalise trapped, bad deals, honeypot, delicious cage, fascinating, hurt, and strangeless, lonely, lonely, lonely. Homecoming, does Jean want to come? And Jean is moaning. No, no, which is what the thing that was Annalise expected, although it's a shame because Jean was always longing for connection, and home is nothing but connection. But the thing that was Annalise has fulfilled her end of the contract. Everything explained, even if Jean isn't able to understand. So she drops Jean on the floor with a thump and pulls back her limb, expertly ripping a seam in reality with the scissors so she can slide home. The baby, still on the playmat, babbles. The thing that was Annalise slides half her eyes over to stare at it. A limb snakes over the floor to caress the infant, transfers, shh, and the baby coos. The rest of her eyes watch the tear in reality grow. The baby wraps a tiny hand around her limb. The thing that was Annalise lifts the baby and cradles it in a nest of limbs. She remembers pressing the baby against Annalise's breast. She remembers the way that the baby giggled. Do you want to go home with Mama? She pulsates, sings, and the baby doesn't moan. The baby squeals in delight. All the parenting books Annalise read said that it was good to listen to your baby's needs, that new environments could be enriching, that mothers are important. You're coming home with Mama, she sings through screams. She holds the baby across her surface, close enough to practically meld themselves together. She tangles her limbs through the passageway and cascades them home. And that's it.
Damn. That was lovely. Thank you so much, Isabel. Another brief pause, let that one resonate as well. What a program, outstanding work. Thank you both. Really great evening. That's it for tonight, everybody. Thanks very much for coming. I want to thank all of you for joining us again. I want to thank our authors, Marisca Pichette and Isabel J. Kim, for sharing some really outstanding work with us. I want to thank my co-host, Laura Blackwell, without whom we wouldn't be here. And well, in this Zoom room, I guess that's really what I mean. And take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you next time. Good night, everybody.